The Adult School is really pleased and proud that we have the perfect person to discuss transportation. Professor Alain Kornhauser joined the faculty here in 1972, the year after he earned his PhD in mechanical and aerospace engineering from Princeton. He is also director of Princeton's transportation program. This program, with courses at both graduate and undergraduate level, stresses the interdisciplinary nature of transportation problems. In addition, Professor Kornhauser serves as co-director of the Center for New Jersey Transportation Information and Decision Engineering, a center that is a cooperative effort involving Princeton, New Jersey Institute of Technology, and Rutgers. The center conducts research on engineering technologies in order to improve transportation-related decision-making. He is also vice chairman of the New Jersey Commission on Science and Technology. Professor Kornhauser has received many awards, including the American Society of Civil Engineers 2007 Francis C. Turner Award for pushing the envelope of imagination, creativity, and innovation in transportation engineering. His academic research and business accomplishments serve as inspiration and motivation for generations of current and future engineering professionals.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleased to see so many of you come to see a few slides tonight. I guess we're going to look at a few pictures of transportation systems and maybe have a little fun with maybe some of the issues that face us in trying to get around right here in Princeton, New Jersey. So maybe we'll just get started. And let's look at one local road improvement that I'm sure some of you have heard about. I guess first, we are doing reconstruction of Mercer Street, and indeed it is closed. I went there and I guess all the traffic in town is a testament to that. And in fact, the previous Mercer Street reconstruction added some man-made traffic calming features there. So I guess that's what we're doing there with that, with spending the money to do whatever we're doing there. But maybe we should just stick with the organic variety, the Mother Nature made traffic calming features. It seems that they were already there. The place hasn't been reconstructed since apparently 1950. And maybe we should have just gone on and just let them be there and made sure that in the process nobody traveled over 25 miles an hour because you really couldn't. And I guess we could have just saved the money. So I don't know why it's closed for that amount of time. But anyway, that's that one. And let's look at another one that's local, and that's Washington Road, which I guess in kind words we'll call the Great Divider of the campus. It is the divider because if we look at the campus here, it really splits it down the middle and really cuts it into two halves. Those that are on the right side of the tracks down here, and those of us in the E-Quad and the Orchid Building and so on, and Friends Center that are on the bad side of the tracks, or however we want to call it. And so this really does serve as a great divider. It is also, in case you don't know, it's the official truck access route from US 1 to Nassau Street and wherever that direction is, west or wherever it happens to be. And of course, it's logical that it should be. I mean, you certainly don't want the trucks on Alexander Road. I mean, we have a bridge that can barely fit one vehicle, and I guess that's why it was there, to make sure there would be no trucks. And certainly I know that all the people that live on Harrison Street absolutely don't want to see them on Harrison Street, plus they can't make the turn at Jugtown anyway. And so really, Washington Road is the appropriate venue for bringing trucks in and out of Princeton, and it probably should be. The only problem is if we're sitting here on campus on what is really supposed to be, by, I guess, all the officialdom that we hear from the university, that it is supposed to be a pedestrian, walk-oriented campus, we do really have this great divider and barrier going right through the heart of it. And so out of this, we found that now we have a bridge that's been built, and maybe this is the way to slay and get rid of the divider. Is it a bridge to nowhere? I don't know. I guess some people might have suggested it's a bridge to nowhere. But in fact, no. I mean, we're doing a major construction of a chemistry building there, and in fact, really, it is providing a vault over the barrier of this road and providing access then to that new academic area of the campus, and of course is really doing quite well in doing that and providing that. So really by a little bridge, we basically maybe broken the barrier, at least half of the barrier in half, in terms of this barrier going through the campus. But if we look and we take a look a little bit more closely on Washington Road and we focus in on it a little bit more, we see that yes, indeed down here we do have I do have a little indication of where the bridge is, but the rest of the campus being there. And really, if we look at the campus in terms of how we get around, there are some wonderful walks. There's Chapel Walk that goes between the chapel and the library. There's McCosh Walk, probably the loveliest area in all of Princeton. We have College Walk down here. We have some other streets that aren't all that nice, maybe not so bad. I guess people in the clubs like Prospect Street, it's really Prospect Avenue. We have William Street. We have Shapiro Walk over here that some of you, it's right outside the door here. That's really been a lovely walk. And we still have this barrier, this maybe we want to call it a cancer through the campus of Washington Road. And really the bridge doesn't eradicate this, what we might call a cancer to the campus. I mean, you're sitting there and what are you trying to get from one side of the tracks to the other side of the tracks, and you have to dodge traffic. There's stuff going up and down it. There's stuff all over the darn place. There are traffic lights. I mean, what a love! Isn't it so lovely to have traffic lights in the middle of, what is arguably one of the most beautiful campuses in the United States, if not the world, and we have this, let's say, cancer going through it. So out of this, we look at it and we say to ourselves, well, what can we do about this? We say, my goodness, and we take a look at it, and we look at the elevation, and if we're down there on that end, it's 120 feet above sea level. And then if we look at the elevation at College Walk, it's 132 feet. And if we look at the elevation basically there at the Woodrow Wilson School Fountain, it's 206 feet. And at William Street or in front of Green Hall, it's 199 feet going back down. And at Nassau Street, it's 188. So there's a big hump. And so all the trucks and the cars and so on go up the hump and down the hump. And you say to yourself, well, let's go to Park Avenue. Why not? Park Avenue in New York, what a lovely place. I mean, I guess it's one of the lovelier places. If we sort of look down on Park Avenue in New York and look down on it, if you can see it, and there's like some cabs coming out of there, and then they all of a sudden disappear. They disappear under some foliage, under this median down in here. If you're looking down on that, thank goodness for all these aerial photos that we cannot get off of Bing and Google and so on and take a look at it, or even go down this street view and pick up some stuff. And you see that along this Park Avenue in here, geez, you know, they stuck some stuff underneath here. And it comes out over here. And isn't it lovely? I mean, they have nice, I mean, it's just like lovely there. Well, maybe what we should do is we should take a look at this span of maybe 1,700 feet between College Walk and William Street, and maybe an approach of 350 feet on either side. And if we look just east of College Walk, this is what we currently see. But why don't we see this? So if we go and do that again, just to make sure. So we see this, but we could have that. This, and why not that? Now if we look just west of William Street, this is what we have. Why not? And so out of this, we look at this Washington Road here. What we really could do is, and I don't know if you could really see it on that, we could really go out there and create Washington Walk by just sticking the stuff underneath. By just taking a cut, instead of going up the hump, just sort of go at a gradual grade, and you could stand and put all that traffic and sort of put it under the rug, and in a sense, take away and see if we can eradicate this. And with this Washington Walk, along with then what you could produce would be a Williams Walk and a Prospect Walk to go along with the Kosh Walk and College Walk and Shapiro Walk. And out of those, so that if you're on Washington Walk looking towards Nassau Street, you might then have this. Or if you're on Williams Walk looking towards the engineering school, you might have this. Or if you're on Prospect Walk, instead of this, you might have that. So out of this, maybe the cancer has been eradicated. So that when you're crossing from the Woodrow Wilson School, there's just not those traffic lights, that junk. It's now really a pedestrian campus that has gotten rid of this cancer, this barrier, this thing that divides us one side of the campus to the other side of the campus, and done it, but some might argue, I'd like to argue, of course, somewhat elegantly. Done just what they did on Park Avenue, they did it at Harvard too. You'd think since they did it at Harvard, we would have done it like that, you know? Then somebody says it may be too expensive. I guess anything good costs money. But in a sense, in terms of what it would do to the campus, what it would do to integrating it, what it would do, at least my personal view in terms of the most enhancement single thing that could enhance the beauty of the campus would be to get rid of Washington Road. Now, some think that the way to get rid of Washington Road is just to close it. The problem is if you close it, where's it going to go? Harrison Street? People who live over there, I mean, they won't let that happen. Alexander Road? Isn't going to happen there. Springdale Road, you can take it down around West Halls and so on. They'll never let that happen. So in a sense, why don't we just deal with it straightforwardly instead of making the traffic go up over the hump? Do a cut, put it down there, plank it over, beautify the place, and really enhance that particular area. So we dealt with Mercer Street and we dealt with Washington Road. So I guess now we have to deal with the Dinky, right? I mean, we're supposed to be doing radical things for local transportation. there's the Dinky. Dinky's been around for, I don't know, a very long time. Of course, we all know they used to have a terminus right at the base of Blair Arch. The 0 milepost marker is still there, and because of the building of the dorms and so on, and whatever, it was moved and whatever, and so on. And basically what it does, if we then make use of our aerial photography, it runs from here at the Princeton Junction, at the Princeton train station, and runs basically along this corridor over here, over to Princeton Junction. It's just under 3 miles long, and I hope everybody here has ridden it at least once. I would imagine some of you maybe lived part of your lives on that driveway. So if we take a look at it, the current Dinky station, in terms of where it's located, what we have here, just in terms of orientation of this overhead, we have Faculty Road over there, and we have the parking garage that was kind of shoehorned into, I don't know, must have been the only piece of cheap land on campus or something. Anybody ever tried to drive to it? You really need a personal navigation device to find your way to it. It's really good. I'm all for that. We have Alexander Road over here, and we have the Dinky station over there, just so everybody is like well oriented to, because we're going to take a look at a few of these guys. And out of this, we find that the university is proposing to do a substantial development of an arts center, which would be really nice if we did it. It would be really great. Have all kinds of really nice things tied in with Carter Theater and so on, all in here. The only problem is that the Dinky station is currently right here. And I think that one of the things that's somewhat important with all of this is that this parking garage over here, that we finally get a way to get out of there, so we need a road to get out of there. And right now there are like train tracks going there, so that's a really bad barrier. So here, in a way to deal with the barrier, what we're going to do and what's been proposed to do is take the station basically from here and move it down to here. And if you moved it down to there, I think the quote is something like 450 feet towards Princeton Junction, then of course, it makes a nice pedestrian type area over here, which would be lovely. But I think what's more important, and that's only my personal opinion, is that now you have an access drive that basically allows you to go from Alexander Road over here to the parking garage. And so now we have access to the parking garage. So if you look at this, this is where it is. And as you can see in here, there's a railroad track, the Dinky track that kind of runs through it, that kind of doesn't make for a good day there. So, move the station. And now the moving of the station has caused a little heartburn to some people. And my goodness, it's 450 more feet, but what's 450 feet, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's gone, whatever, and dealt with it. The issue is are there any other ideas to moving the station 450 feet closer to Princeton Junction? I mean, in some sense, if you move it 450 feet, you might as well move it all the way to Princeton Junction. Why stop there, and why not just keep going? So the question is, are there any other ideas? So we're not going to go back to Park Avenue, New York for this one. We're just going to go down to Faculty Road, the Faculty Road crossing of the Dinky tracks. I'm sure everyone here has crossed the Dinky tracks down there. There are gates going up and down, things going. It's kind of good. And if we look at it, whoops, too fast. If we look down there, and if we stand there at the crossing and we turn to our right and we look down towards the canal, it's a nice view. It's a very lovely view. So that's the lovely view towards the canal. And if we look the other way, 180 degrees the other way. It's another lovely view back towards the station. But again, what one sees is it's like not flat. It's like there's a grade there. So if you go and you then go back and then you take a look and you say, well, where the Dinky crosses the canal, the elevation is 42 feet. And so that's the 42 feet down there at where it crosses the canal. And where it crosses Faculty Road, the elevation is 108 feet. So the darn thing has gone uphill. And I guess those of you that have ridden it and notice how it chugs going uphill, and when you're going to the junction of like streams, right? So, thank goodness for gravity. And up at the station, it's 145 feet. It continues to go up. So, if we said, well, why don't we just reconstruct the tracks a little bit? Since we already have all this equipment that made this great cut to do the Washington Road, we got to use it some more, right? I mean, you can't just let the stuff sit there. I mean, it's free now. They brought it here. Hey, let's go to town. And let's create a cut. Let's start a cut. And let's do a cut such that we can pass under Faculty Road. So now instead of it being like this, they're like this. And in fact, if we're going to do that, so then I can just, oh yeah, no, I forgot what I was going to do with it. Oh, yeah, I spent a lot of time making this one. I shouldn't forget it. So then, once we're there on Faculty Road with the gate crossings and so on, we could take those away. Now, that's beautification of Faculty Road. It's not really the reason why we did this. We did this so that there would no longer be the conflict between the automobile and truck traffic and the train traffic and the Dinky traffic. And we're going to then continue that. Since we're doing it, we have the machinery, we're going to continue it all the way up to basically where they want to put the station now, or where they want to move the station. So we want to extend the cut all the way up to the Arts Center. And then if you're sort of with me on the kinds of things that I must like, what are we going to do next? We're going to continue it at that level, and we're just going to then plank it over. Just like we did with Washington Road, but it's not down here. We can plank it over. We can put stuff over there. We can integrate the station with the Arts Center. We can make those things tight. I was going to bring a slide of it. You've been in the Paris Metro, where when you go to the Louvre, it's like gorgeous in the station. You could integrate the station right there with the basement of the Arts Center. And it's not a crazy idea to do that because, in fact, at least all the things that I've heard about, some of the things that I've heard about the Arts Center, is that the basement area, the lower floors are really important to that development there. And so now, instead of having to move the station to make way for the Arts Center, you're keeping the station there, integrating it with the Arts Center. And then, just think, people from New York and Philadelphia could easily get on and think you come over, good connectivity on that. Why not? Just a little bit of a cut. There's more. There's more. But I guess you're trying to get rid of me, but whatever. What if we automated the Dinky? We automated the Dinky, now there's no longer the grade crossing problem. Okay, it's basically, you could automate it. Enabling maybe 7 by 24 service. Maybe something like meeting all the trains at Princeton Junction, no problem. Maybe like 5-minute headways to be able to then connect Princeton with the development that's being proposed out of Princeton Junction, all the station development that they're proposing out there. And it's not that this is like way out technology. How many of you have gone to JFK Airport and ridden the air train? Anybody? One person. Come on, raise your hands. You must have been there. I mean, it's not that I know the rest of you took chauffeurs. Okay. You know, and you can do it with JFK Airtran technology, and, you know, it's automated. Happens to have, you know, linear induction motor propulsion system in there, which is kind of nifty, but it just sits there and runs. You didn't even know it. And it's completely automated, and it's not the first one. Actually, the first one, probably you may have heard about it if you watched the Olympics. It was in Vancouver in 1985. So it's been it's been 25 years from that for that thing. And in fact, you know, Toronto also in 85, and Detroit in 87, and Kuala Lumpur in 98, and Beijing Airport. I mean, even the Chinese have this. You can't have it here in Princeton. Was it such a big deal? And they're building one in South Korea now. If you did this, then what else can you do? That's what's really interesting. There's all this land out here, sitting out there between the canal and Route 1. You could stick another station there. Because it's automated, it's, you know, stop, boom, you know, no big deal. It's like an elevator. You were going to 42, you had to stop at 28. No big deal. And you put it out there, and all of a sudden, it makes all this land connected with all of this. And because it's here next to Route 1, instead of having the parking garage there, put the parking garage over here. And if it's automated and running at less than 5-minute headway, then you don't have to say, am I going to make the schedule right? You can't even read those schedules. Nobody reads those schedules. You have to be so stuck. You have to spend like a week. So, you know, you aren't just going to throw it on the lark. Absolutely not. And go in there, and of course there, and hey, we have all the paraphernalia. You could intercept cars here, have them park here, come on in, whatever. Out of that. Huh. And then the coup d'etat. If you were really irrational, then once you're there, you just keep going. Guess what? It's about 1,700 feet again. And you just take it from where the end of the Dinky is, and you just laser it up here. Palmer Square. You just tunnel there. And you don't need to do it right now. You can kind of get accustomed to it. You could do it later. But you'd be teed up to do it. You could have proven the automation, you could have proven the automation, you could have proven everything, everybody could have loved it, and then everybody would be clamoring for it. Now, I don't know if it's a good idea. Because all of a sudden, if you make the center of Princeton basically a non-stop, because hey, you get off of the train on the main line, and there's a Dinky there. It's like transferring from one elevator to the other, and you go, and you make the center of Princeton basically really a no-hassle 1-hour connectivity to the center of Manhattan and center of Philadelphia, although I don't know what that is, but anyway. For the arts community, for Princeton, for the connectivity, what would happen to land values in Princeton? Now, maybe that's not necessarily a good idea. Maybe then, you know, we won't have just like 7-story buildings or whatever the biggest one is. All of a sudden, they'll be bigger, and who knows what it would mean. And maybe, you know, sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for. So therefore, you know, it's not necessarily, but the connectivity that it would provide. Cut it out. So onto this, it is 1,700 feet. Sure, it has to pass under Alexander Hall. You kind of hope that thing would fall. No. But we know how to do that. We can do, that's not a big deal. That is just not a big deal. And basically, it's a straight shot from there. So the concept of having a station here in Palmer Square, a station here at the Arts Center, a station out at the intercept for whatever development someone would want to do in the parking garages and so on, and automobile intercepts at Route 1, and out to Princeton Junction, to provide then that connectivity between the transit village there, Princeton, New York, Philadelphia, Trenton, all the way up and down. I mean, come on. This is another idea. Nobody wants to even, spend a second on this. Everybody wants to talk about, hey, how great the arts is going to be, and how great the poetry is going to be, and how great the performance are going to be, and how nice the buildings are going to be. And let's shove this transportation system 450 feet back towards the who knows where. Instead of really saying, hey, how do we then take advantage of this thing? How do we provide connectivity? How do we make it so it's really fluid for people to come there? So it's not going to be a hassle, so that they're going to want, so it's no-brainer, so that it's connected. Why hasn't that thought gone into it? And in some sense, out of all this, to then really do the coup de grace, which is this. That. Go right down, man. It's pretty nice, huh? But it would be an underground station there. You can get your latte down there too, and whatever, and so on. I want a concession on that. So, got a few more minutes, so we'll do this. So let's not get really crazy. So up to this point, we've just been somewhat sane. And, and what about personal rapid transit? So personal, what the heck is that? What is that? Well, personal rapid transit is supposed to be small 48-passenger automated public transit vehicles operating on a dedicated guideway in close headway operation. Because if you're not going to have very many people in each one of the little packets, you've got to put the packets close together so that you can get some bandwidth, some flow down each of those lines and have it in there. Now, if you're going to do that, you end up looking like a little bit like, let's say, New Jersey Turnpike, or one lane of the New Jersey Turnpike, one right after the other. And so, while automation is an important part of this technology, the really key part of the technology is what's called the on-the-vehicle switch. Now, I know maybe for some of you it's been a while since you played with your Lionel trains. I still play with mine. But Lionel trains, whenever you wanted to have switches, when you go lay out, you just didn't do a little loop, or not just a little shuttle like the Dinky. You wanted to have network, You had switches all over the place and so on. So when you wanted a train to go from one line to the other, some physical things have to move. Points have to move. If you go, those of you that have been to Newark Airport, have ridden the air tram there. Notice I didn't recommend that one for the Dinky. The switches on the air tram there at Newark Airport, I always thought were the most interesting switches because they aren't things that go like back and forth. They're a rotisserie. Underneath is the go straight part, and up top is the switch off. And if you want to go straight, the whole thing has to rotisserie. 180 degrees, and then if you want to do back, it has to rotisserie back, and so on. But, you can have a rotisserie. All those mechanical movements take time. And what it requires then is that the spacing between vehicles have to allow for the rotisserie to turn, or the points to move. Whereas, whenever you go up to exit 9 and drive onto the New Jersey Turnpike, it's really good that you don't have to need the New Jersey Turnpike Commission to go out there and move a chunk of guideway to allow you on the road. Because you never get there. What you have is on the vehicle switch. There's really a passive guideway, and the vehicle does the switching. So then when you go there, you can just merge right behind the truck, and you can peel off right behind the bus, and do all these kinds of things that you can do, because each vehicle itself has a switch. So that's really important that these things have that. And a lot of people in their basements and so on, garages, have developed these things over the years, and they go on to do that. So that's just an important part of the technology. So, and out of this, I guess, I want to know who that guy is. pants. And the guy to my right is Henry Posner, third class of 77. His daughter's class of 12. And that was about 1976. Morgantown Personal Rapid Transit System, the first one, the really only one, and it's still running, and it's run for these 30 plus years, and so on, so it sort of works. The problem is there haven't been too many in the intervening years. And we see that it's coming to Heathrow. And sure enough, it looks like it is going to come to Heathrow, and in fact, that's kind of a really important technological demonstration that make them see if these things really can work in revenue service and perform the way that they're supposed to with small vehicles. And I've been dabbling with these things for almost 40 years, and in some sense, I'm a little bit disappointed in the lack of progress in these things. At one point, a long time ago, the director of the American Public Transit Association put his arm around me and he said, Alan, PRT, it's a transportation system of the future, and always will be. Set me up and chop me down, and some 40 years later, we're still waiting for this, for some of these things to happen. As I said, Morgantown has operated for that amount of time in a really bad environment, weather environment, and so on. You can't go to a major airport in the world without riding on an automated people mover. They all have it. It's not a major airport without one. So the fact that the automation piece of it, that's no problem. That's all done, no problem. There's now, in fact, if you look at the cost of automation, it's essentially going to zero. All right, so that piece of it, well, I should modify my comment there. That's before the recent Toyota problem. Well, that's an ugly one, so we can't talk about that. There is this broad movement to energy independence, and we certainly would like to get ourselves, let's say, weaned off of at least petroleum and onto possibly electricity, and maybe Heathrow's really going to become a reality, and a lot of these things will kind of take off and finally do something. So if we look back, it's not easy to do technological innovation. If you look at the automobile, Daimler and Benz, 1888, and it's, in the beginning it looks kind of nice and ends up taking quite a while. If you look at places around in New Jersey 100 years ago, there were a lot of cars parked up and down Central Avenue in Caldwell, New Jersey. You can see them all. I mean, they're double parked and everything there, right? And here, in Bloomfield Avenue, there are actually tracks in for a streetcar that's there in the center. There are really none there. Bloomfield and Academy Road, it wasn't even paved. That was the dominant form of transportation 100 years ago. And of course, certainly post 1950, we sort of got ourselves behind the 8 ball with respect to those things. And so the mobility in New Jersey has changed drastically in the 100 years from 1910 to 2010. I guess the question to ask all of you is how much is it going to change in the 100 years to 2110? I know I'm not going to be here to see it, but I ask this to my students all the time, and they say, well, we'll still be driving cars. I'll still have my Toyota or whatever. Why should, of course we're all just going to be doing things like that. Yeah, of course, I guess, things don't change. But there does seem to be a birth-death process in technology, and we kind of see it all the time. So in the beginning, if we look at industry size as a function of time, it sort of then takes off, and we know all about bubbles and stuff like that. And then, so there's a period of innovation and a growth to maturity, and then a decline, and then what I like to call the nostalgia phase, where kind of keep some around, like the cable car in San Francisco. There still is one. They maintain it, spend a lot of money keeping it. It's nostalgia, but And the issue is something else takes over and goes on and dominates that. And to me, the kind of key statement about this is by Joe Schumpeter. In a capitalist reality, it is not price competition which counts, but the competition from the new commodity, the new technology. Competition which commands a decisive cost or quality advantage and which strikes not at the margin, it's not a little differential, not at the margin of the profits and the outputs of the existing firms, but at their very foundations and their very lives. And we know that's true. Look at the iPod. We know it's true. Everybody thinks the iPad's going to do the same thing. Look at what the personal computer did. Look at what, where'd they come from? Didn't even see them coming. It wasn't a marginal thing. It wasn't that one was just a little bit above and at the very guts of things in terms of that technology. And we saw it with respect to transportation, and I could take you through various technologies. We'll just look at electric railways, streetcars, and so on. In fact, I like to take electric traction all the way back to Davenport in 1835, messing around with batteries. Batteries are tough. Batteries have been tough. They've been tough at least since 1835, and they continue to be tough. And probably the biggest advances that we're making in batteries these days are due to these things. And these things are probably going to allow us to have electric vehicles out there because these guys are going to make the batteries so that they have high density. Okay, why? Because, of course, we want these things to weigh nothing and never run out, and blah, 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 and we're all paying for them, we love it, and so on, and that's where it's going. And by the time one looked in 1910 or something and where all those things were going, you looked at the Los Angeles basin, and one saw in the Los Angeles basin, boy, there's like tracks all over the place, the Pacific Electric Railway and so on. You go there, and then boom, the birth-death process. Almost looks like the NASDAQ, before and after March. It's almost the 10th anniversary. I mean, we're up Champagne here on the 10th anniversary on March 10th. We're going to celebrate the peak of the NASDAQ, and then whatever. So if we look at the automobile, we look at U.S. automobile registrations and so on. This is what it's looked like. It had a hiccup down here during the war years, during World War II, and then had some problems over here in the 70s and whatever, and it's kind of flattening out. Now, I cheated a little bit when I made the graph because I called it automobile, and what happened in these intervening periods, in these intervening periods is the automobile industry decided they wanted to sell us SUVs, and that they called them trucks. They got better brakes, not better brakes, but better economic brakes. And whatever, so there's a little cheap, but there may be a flattening out. Could it possibly go down the other side? Nah, it can't. I mean, there's no way that's going to look like the electric, right? It's just not going to happen. Not going to happen. Morgantown 90D, Heathrow 2010. I don't know. So what I do with my class is that we go out, we design a statewide PRT system for New Jersey. Okay? I want to say, hey, what would it take to really displace and make this stuff dominant mode? So basically, what I've done in the last few years is they go out, and the objective is to basically provide so many stations out there so everybody can walk to a station. And interconnect them all into a network so that everybody gets served. And we're not going to redo the railroad to New York or anything like that. Hey, we're spending $8 billion to build another tunnel. We're not going to go out there and just abandon that stuff. We're just going to go to the stations and we'll make it like we've done with the Dinky, make it easy transfer and so on. But otherwise, from where people are, put stations basically within a 5-minute walk of everything in New Jersey. And so what we've done in doing that is, we've precisely geocoded all the demands, origins, destinations, all over New Jersey, wherever people are going, where the McDonald's are, where all the hospitals are, schools, blah, 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 all out there. And students go in and break up the class students get this county, other ones get that county down, and they go there and they design them all up, and they then do that. Come on. And now to look at this stuff. So if we look at basically things for New Jersey, we have a population of about 8.75 million, growth rate of 3.7%, which is moderate, a little less than what the nationwide is. We have the highest population density of any state in the nation. Some counties are really highly populated, others not so much, like Salem. 6% less than 5 years old, only 24% under the age of 17. So really, we're not suffering the problems of some developing countries with extremely large populations of the very young. Total person trips made in New Jersey every day is about 34 million. So that includes all the things that you do and all the things that everybody else does. And if you look at how much money we all spend, for gas, for cars, for parking, for whatever, for and so on and so forth, we end up spending out of our own pockets, willing to be able to go from place to place in the things that we do, about $25 billion a year. And the other interesting part to point out with respect to New Jersey is especially where we get our electricity, even though very little of the transportation is using electricity, we're generating 48% of our electricity from nuclear here in New Jersey, and essentially none from renewables, simply because renewables, well, it's a great thing and it's nice to be green and all that stuff. In the end, it's not going to produce all that much. And if we really need a lot more, we better start doing something about doing stuff with things that are a lot more, but I won't deal with that. And so they go out there and they generate, locate stations all over the place, make sure everybody's within a quarter-mile walk and nice access and so on, Ocean County and so on. And we get, depending on which class, different numbers of stations, but something like this one, which was 11,000 stations all over New Jersey, connected by some 12,000 miles of guideway, and go out there and basically, out of that, are able to serve every day 26.5 million trips we claim out of this thing, requiring a fleet size of about a million vehicles. Why? Because they're it's just a big state doing a lot of things. Fleet cost of $53 billion. The stations, depending, some of them are very expensive, some of them will be cheap, whatever, going out there, maybe $28 billion. Guideway, it'd be nice if we could build it for that. Full price tag, maybe $143 billion for it. Of course, everybody goes, that's a lot of money. In fact, if you say, hey, I'm just gonna go straight out and I'm gonna float bonds for this at 8% or something like that, and not do any gimmicky financial stuff, just pay for it and so on out of that stuff. And if you look at what we currently spend, in fact, the mobility that's provided here would be provided for less than what we currently spend for the mobility that we have. It's not by an order of magnitude, but it's less. And it provides mobility for everybody, nonstop, from everywhere throughout the network. So in the end, it ends up being a lot. Of course, it does a lot. It's one focus on the design that looks at existing land use, and the land use has moved to where the transportation is. And if you put these stations out there, you should be able to focus development, do a bunch of other things, which we certainly don't take into account, because that's really tough to do. We probably should be able to do better. But it's sort of an interesting thing for them to look as to where we might be going. So over the 45 minutes or a couple minutes longer, we talked about Mercer Street. I guess it's a good thing we're doing whatever we're doing there. Washington Road. And I'm not the first guy to have the idea of a Washington Walk, but really, that would really improve this campus. The Dinky, it's a fundamental asset. Transportation that we have here in Princeton. It'd be a shame to have that thing go by the boards. And in fact, if we looked at it, we could turn that thing around and make it a phenomenal asset. We could lead instead of wallowing. And then the PRT stuff, you know, that's just for class and you have a lot of fun with it. So, thank you. So, I don't know that anybody has any questions, comments, kibitzing. Nobody in the back. Speak up.
Your comments about the change in elevation of the Dinky and Washington Road, is that just to get us to think in 3 dimensions, or does that actually make it easier to put those underground?
Well, it just it makes it marginally easier. Okay, doesn't make it silly. You could if they were all both, you could go under and do a bunch of other things and raise Faculty Road and all that. To me, the key part of the Dinky piece is to put it lower, so that in fact you could deal with the parking garage and integrate it better with the development of the Arts Center, because apparently that's supposed to be, at least the little I understand about it, the major reception area. And then, of course, once you're there, you like want to continue to have laser beam, but that's, you know, that's not personal. That's why they think I'm just a goofball.
Why stop at Nassau Street?
Well, the reason why you want to stop at Nassau Street is there isn't a lot on the other side. Okay, I mean that's the problem. You know, the size of vehicle that one's dealing with, one needs a substantial demand at the particular points to do that. You don't have the network opportunities. And in fact, you know, that's why one thinks about, in terms of all the putting around these things, a network opportunity like a PRT system is how you then deal with the lower density development that exists in most other places. But there's certainly a great enough density of development at Palmer Square to do it. And, you know, depending on, again, what the land use regulations would end up evolving to, and so on in the town, as to whether you want to go beyond that. But again, to me, the prudent part is just to go there, and there, I think, has justification. But, yes, if I speak, or I'll repeat it.
I'm a little hard of hearing, so I'm not sure what you mean by a station in your last 5 minutes. A station.
A PRT station? A PRT station, for PRT, it's a station. It would be just like an area in an elevator bank. Because in fact, PRT stations would end up looking like elevators in an elevator bank. If you go to the 7 World Trade Center now, and you go to the 7 World Trade Center and you hit a button, you want to push for an elevator, you push for it, you put in your floor outside the elevator. And then it comes back and says, oh, you want to go to floor 42, go to elevator D5. It's going to 42. So, I mean, that would be the situation that would occur with one of these stations. And in fact, you know, with all of our connected phones, I know where I'm going. Might as well share that with the system. While I'm walking to the station, it knows where I am. It knows when I'm walking. It knows when I'm going to get there. It can figure it out. It knows whether or not there's somebody else that can share a ride. It can make all that stuff efficient. Boom. I mean, the algorithms that do that are all straightforward. So the idea is that, you know, we're going there. Okay, it knows. Go into this one, go. I don't want to share. I want a private. I don't want to let anybody else in the elevator with me. I close the door, or I pay a little bit more. Or hopefully I don't care. It doesn't matter. What am I going to do in there? I mean, they have cameras. They're watching it. Not that I'm stupid. Right? So, yes.
In your diagram of the Arts Village, it doesn't show. It shows University Place in the same location as it is now? Is it part of the debate because they want to relocate University Place?
No, I don't think they're talking about relocating University Place. They're talking about, they were talking, as far as I know, taking the Wawa area and putting buildings in there, leaving University Place where it is, putting a circle there that I showed. I don't think you need the circle. I think what you want to do is make the whole circulation one way. Because in fact, if you look at the predominant travel patterns on that, people come up Alexander Road, turn onto University Place and go up, and they tend to come back down Alexander Road. Why that wasn't part of the plan? I mean, look, University didn't hire very good transportation consultants. They had very good arts people, but they said, no, this transportation stuff.
I'm sort of fascinated by your concept of the Dinky, which most of us for a long time have thought of as, oh, that's the thing that connects the campus to the Northeast Corridor line. And that's the only thing it's good for. You've really laid it out as almost a light rail system. If your vision is what...
Yeah, I mean, you could call it a light rail system. I would prefer not to put it on the street so I can automate it. Because I just think that an automation, then you go to you've been to airports, right? I mean, those that you have to sit there and wait for a bus versus those that you can go and hop on. Come on, it's night and day.
We're not really making major investments in this country in any of this stuff. I think there was a...
Well, if you would ask me where we should spend the stimulus money, I'd tell you. Washington Walk and that's where, but why not? Why not? They're construction projects, they're investments in the future. Those are 50, 75-year investments, if not 100. Why not? I guess we're supposed to be doing some of that stuff.
Your Washington Walk idea is fascinating, but what order of magnitude would it cost to bury that road?
20 years ago, I got an engineering firm to do a cost estimate. It was $50 million then. So it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be 100, 125, whatever, 200, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. That sort of thing, it's the appropriate thing to be funded from capital budgets out of the federal government, which for roads they pay 90 cents on the dollar, and for mass transit they pay 80. Why should it go to Wyoming or someplace? Why is Rush Holt should be fighting for the stuff to bring it here? And the university, I know it's tough here, whatever. The endowment only went up by 10% last year, whatever. I mean, it's tough. But, to me, it would so enhance the quality of this campus. Now, some people think that Washington Road, the way it is an asset because people can drive down, up and down Washington Road and look at the majesty of the campus. Are you joking? Really? I mean, take a survey. People driving up, they want to they want to not hit a student or faculty member, and I'm jumping out in front of them. And they're just trying to get to Nassau Street, get their stuff done. If they want to see the majesty of the campus, they should go to the parking lot out there near Route 1, hop on the automated Dinky and come on in and walk around and enjoy the campus. Stop at the Art Center, do that kind of stuff. That's whatever, See, when I get a soapbox, I can't get off it. Whatever. Anything else? Yes?
What is the university saying is the reason it won't consider your idea?
They don't talk to me. I don't know. And you can imagine they don't want to talk to me. You can just imagine it. They don't.
Other than aesthetics, is there any economic benefit to any of these projects that you're talking about?
The new science library. The economic benefit of that? I don't want to debate it. No, sometimes you do things not just for the nickels and dimes. Sometimes you do things because it's the right thing to do. This is supposed to be a pedestrian campus, a walk-oriented campus. We have this cancer running through the center of it. we'd like to be able to say, hey, it's going to go away. The previous guy in charge of university design or whatever believed that that was going to happen. Yeah, I guess if that happens, I'm all for it. Then, in fact, we'll get Washington off without having to build the tunnel. I'm a happy guy. I just don't think that that's where the negotiation's going to end up. And I don't think it's right for Princeton. And I don't think it's right for the people who live on Harrison Street. And I don't think it's right for whatever's going to happen along Alexander Road and up there on Mercer and by the church up there and all that stuff. In fact, it should go up Washington Road. But let's stick the darn thing under the rug. It doesn't, it really, and plus, you know, this is energy saving.
Would this be a good investment for university funds?
Yes, pardon me? No, and the arguments that I've heard from alumni, they'd be lining up that, hey, if I had any money, I'd want to call, no, I wouldn't want to call that, but yes, in the back.
Some regional planners have been promoting bus rapid transit. What's your opinion of that?
Yeah, that's the question, didn't you? I have a whole set of slides that I took out of the presentation because you were limiting my time. New Jersey currently has the world's best bus rapid transit system. The absolute best bus rapid transit system. Much of it is under private operation by private bus companies. It was created in, I believe, 1973 by John C. Cole, who was Commissioner of Transportation at the time. And what he saw was that in the 495 viaduct onto the Lincoln Tunnel and the 42nd Street bus terminal, in the morning, basically nobody was leaving Manhattan. He decided to steal one of the outbound lanes from Manhattan in New Jersey, and I have one in my office, put plastic pegs separating the reverse counterflow exclusive bus lane that he created on the 495 viaduct that runs from the New Jersey Turnpike to the Lincoln Tunnel, and allows the buses to move through there essentially without delay. Capacity of 700 buses an hour, which is about as much as the 42nd Street bus terminal can eat. 35,000 people per hour go through that thing. More people use buses to go to Manhattan than use the rail system for which we're building an $8 billion another pair of tunnels to Manhattan. That system is fantastic. Most efficient bus corridor in the world. Why does it work? Because it's a many-to-one or a one-to-many system. We have Manhattan here, and we have radials coming out to there, and we've created park and ride lots out here, and we put a exclusive lane on the New Jersey Turnpike for buses and cars with 3 passengers and the others, and people would basically take their cars to here and then go nonstop into Manhattan, and it works really well within the private sector, most of it. Pays for itself. Construction costs essentially zero to make it happen. Operating costs essentially zero. Why? Because there's such a strong magnet here of people wanting to come that you can fill up, you can get 50 people to get on a bus and not have to wait an hour before 50 people finally show up to get on the bus to make it efficient. All right? So there's enough demand focused on the point such that you can make it. The BRT proposal for this area is goofy. It's the only way to call it. Maybe between Princeton and Princeton Junction, there's enough volume. Are you kidding me? People are going to come from all these other places, and you think that they're going to run any sort of frequency and have anybody on the bus? No. No. Somebody in Bucks County is really going to go and wait and take one of these things to finally get here as opposed to driving their cars to the university? Ain't going to happen. Just not big enough. Not enough demand. Not enough congestion associated there. But by taking the congestion out of the tunnel, out of the viaduct, out of that place, going to Manhattan, all of a sudden you had a really competitive service to Manhattan. And that's what's allowed these buses to go out and people to want to do that. They aren't going to want to do this. Isn't going to happen. So, yeah. Oh, pretty buses. Like have plastic all over the low floor. I mean, you know, whatever. Isn't going to happen. My view. Okay? My personal view. Yes?
Would the air rights over the Washington Green be an incentive to the university to support the concept?
Well, you know, at one point I thought that the student center should be located right on top of it, right? But, you know, they found a good place to locate it on Old Palmer and so on, and it's wonderful. The land, the additional land, value of land, I forgot to mention one thing. Thank you for reminding me. We have the Dinky station, we have the Dinky. We have Alexander, and we have Faculty Road. If you now put this, the Dinky tracks, under Faculty Road and in a cut, what you can also do is for this sliver of land, it has marginal value to the university. The university owns it all. All of a sudden, can easily build things that go across, even down here. They go over the Dinky, so that no longer is this stuff land, basically transportation locked. Greatly improves the value of that land. Enormously improves the value of that land. Now, if you go out there and you instead pave over the Dinky tracks and put a bus less than rapid transit system on it, you're still going to have the problem. It's going to be a barrier. And they're going to put up fences and not allow you to do that. And if you put it in a cut like you do with a Dinky, what are you doing it with a bus for? Who wants to ride a bus? I'm sorry, you know, it's nice that I have a floor here and I can be, you know, totally outrageous, whatever. So there is real economic value at the university. In terms of the additional land value on Washington Road, yes, you could probably do something. But come on, McCosh Walk, gorgeous. Okay? College Walk, gorgeous. All right? Chapel Walk, gorgeous squared. All right? Shapiro Walk, getting to be gorgeous. We could do the same thing down Prospect. Cul-de-sac there, you know, who knows, go crazy. You can then, I don't know if you notice in the image, you can come down 1879 Arch and right there, you can even bring the P right back there. I did see that. Okay. William Street, come on. It would be gorgeous. Yes, what? Yeah, one more. One more, yes.
Is there still any discussion of putting Route 1 in a cut?
I imagine so. I mean, you could take another one that's a no-brainer. I mean, absolutely, yes, but yeah, no. But I'm not, I'm not, morally or emotionally attached to that. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I stay as far away from Route 1 as I possibly can. So, so